Holy Mary, gentle virgin, meek and mild. For centuries, the church has tried to portray Mary as the virgin queen of submission, and thus paradigmatic for all women. The church has suggested, not subtly, that just as Mary turned over her will to God, so should women turn over their wills to God's representatives on earth, that is, to men, especially men of the church. This archetype of Mary glosses motherhood, the fiercest, most powerful and passionate occupation known to humans, with sentimentality. It bathes a revolutionary risk taker and Satan stomper with a glow of goodness and docility. It twists Mary's obedience to God into the suggestion that the weak owe obedience to powerful humans, priests, husbands, masters, rulers. But listen, Mary is singing a new song. The Magnificat follows Mary's astonishing encounter with the angel Gabriel and her evangelical fire as she runs to share the good news with Elizabeth. It is, of course, profoundly unsettling news. Mary doesn't need a man to have a baby. She isn't going to be good and follow social norms. In fact, she shouts out the overturning of the whole social order, proclaiming that the lowly will be lifted up, the poor filled with good things, and the rich sent away empty. Mary doesn't pause to ask permission of rulers or of any man to step off the precipice into her experience. Her proclamation that God is at work in her body is radical. It shows us, even before Jesus does, what it means to truly submit. Submission isn't something we talk about a lot in this culture unless we're talking about sexual kink or about coerced obedience to armies and laws, powers and principalities, to money. But truly submitting to God, surrendering yourself, heart and soul, womb and lungs, body and mind and hands, remains a profoundly transgressive, unworldly act. Our worldly systems, secular as well as religious, work on the principle of individual gratification, self-awareness, self-improvement, self-esteem. We believe in being true to yourself, finding your own way, standing up for yourself, bullying your own way to riches and then independence. We believe in self-declared religious exemptions to social responsibility. This defended individual self, along with its purportedly individual salvation, is at the center of most white American theology. Theology that echoes the perspective of the ubiquitous market that separates us from others and rules our hungry lives. Why be a lowly servant like Mary if you can rise to the top as a girl boss through your own efforts? Why do justice like Jesus if bothering to care for others will take away your power? Why surrender to God when you can insist firmly that you are a self-made person? But the prophet Mary stands among us, breathing quietly and humming under her breath. Now as then, she addresses the emptiness of the pretense that we're self-sufficient individuals in full control of our lives. Mary proclaims that all generations will call her blessed. But it's not the kind of blessing most of us pray for. Mary says yes without knowing what God will do. She submits to humiliation, physical pain, dislocation, terror, loss. She is losing, she's giving herself to become Theotokos, the bearer of God for all of us. It's really hard to bear God. It's, in fact, unbearable without God. Any woman who's born a child Any man who's fathered a child, any person of any gender who has truly loved another person, you've been in Mary's position, a God bearer, carrying love through this violent and dangerous and unjust world that we're unable to control by ourselves. And like Mary, we can't choose how God will bless us. We might receive a blessing as terrifying as hers, having a child tortured and killed, as impossible as having the hungry filled with good things. We aren't passive in this process any more than Mary was. To protect those we love and to serve God, we have to work and pray and imagine and act together as bravely and radically as she did. But like Mary, we have to say yes to God, yes to our neighbors, without being in charge of what happens next. Mary's Magnificat is a song of joy and shared rejoicing. And it also points directly to the cross, foreshadowing the passion of Jesus. Mary's song is the closest we're going to get in Advent to the darkest, most frightening and transcendent moment in the Gospels, when Jesus surrenders his will, his hope, his very life, putting everything in God's hands. My soul is in torment, Jesus says. But what should I say? Father, save me from this hour? No, it's for this I came. Father, glorify your name. Jesus's obedience is not a ritual obedience, but a passionate surrender for love. It's at the heart of his divinity. It's at the heart of his humanity. And he learned it from his mom. So like the God-bearer, Theotokos, let's pray this Advent to receive the Spirit of God into our own bodies. Let us submit to God's blessings. Let us share the good news of the world turned upside down. And let us dare to follow the way promised by Mary's wild song. It leads to new life, and it leads to the cross, and it leads to new life.